Alright, so now we're having a bit of a change of scenery because I got quite bored of the off-white background with the poster of the thing like I talked about before. Now we're sitting on my bed and I've got a light over there that I've had for a while and I haven't used, and I've got my Blue Yeti in my hand now with my sticker on it. And now we get to do this. I get to see myself, and that's definitely gonna make things way better. I'm not going to keep this one snappy. This one's going to be actually relatively extensive because I have a lot to say about Thunderbolts, and it's definitely one of the better movies that's come out since Infinity War, and that's not saying much, though, because we have had some quite and utter stinkers recently. I haven't even seen most of them because I heard they were unbelievably bad, and I did not feel like wasting my time. So I have not really seen many Marvel movies, especially in theaters, in a while. This was one of the first Marvel movies I've seen, I think, since maybe Endgame and No Way Home. And so I guess maybe I have some sort of bias because I've hated the recent Marvel movies, but regardless, this is still a solid film overall, and there's a lot to be said about it. I'm going to start with just a synopsis. Basically, it's about a group of mercenaries, the Thunderbolts. They're tested, like, they're trying to kill each other in the beginning because I think it's the CEO or the director of the CIA, Victoria DeFontaine, she basically has all this evidence against her and all these terrible things that she did, and now she's trying to kill the mercenaries that were tasked with destroying her other evidence, and now they've been all put together to kill each other to erase the final evidence, which is a kind of a fun plot point. They all show up in this like warehouse and they just start shooting at each other, and it's a pretty cool fight. Taskmaster dies instantly, which I love Taskmaster, so I thought that was relatively disappointing, but still, it was still a pretty fun fight. The main group of people, though, it's very interesting. I'll get to that, but it's definitely a bizarre pick, and I think I know where they're going with it, but still. Basically, after that, they end up just teaming up to escape because they find out what's happening, and that's when they meet Bob, who is Sentry, who, if you know anything about the comics, he's like one of the most powerful like Marvel characters of all time, which I thought was interesting going into it because I knew about that. That's about the only thing I didn't know, was that Sentry was in it. And I've never read many comics, so I didn't really know like who that was too much. I did some quick research on it. I was like, oh, okay, so this is a really cool character. I was hoping that they would pull it off pretty well, and I'm not disappointed. I think they did a good job. But yeah, basically that's the whole thing. They find this Bob character. He escapes because he sacrifices himself so the rest of them can get away. And the rest of the film is trying to get Bob basically in the clear because he's like having like all these emotional problems. He turns into the void. Bunch of things like that happen. I don't want to spoil it too much because I do think you should go see this, but it's just an overall really fun movie, and the Thunderbolts are a pretty unique cast of characters, all things considered. My main likes, I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I saw it in theaters with my friend, and it's a good movie going experience. I would recommend it. The main cast is very interesting. It's definitely funnier than many of the other Marvel movies that have come out recently from the ones I've seen. I definitely see this as one of them. Like, Marvel isn't really that comedic. I don't usually find many of their movies that good, but this one was definitely way funnier than the rest of them have been. Bob is like a standout character. I loved him. Void's design was really cool overall. I loved what they did with him, like the black effect that they had, like the shadow. I thought that was really rad, and like how he just like put his hand out and then they would like get turned into a shadow on the floor. That was such a cool point. I loved that part. Lewis Pullman, who plays Sentry Bob, he does a great job of playing like the likable dope, and then he like gets a god complex and he plays that like maniac pretty well, and then he turns in the void, of course, and I think he does a good job at that. Those are pretty much my major likes. I'll get to like the main thing that I think is really interesting about how it's reflective of the MCU's current standpoint. I think that was intentional. I think that's one of the more interesting points about it, because it is honestly just how the MCU is now, because I'll get into all that, but still. My dislikes, it's not subtle at all. They keep, because the whole major theme thing is you're not alone. That's like, that's been done to death in media, and this one kind of takes it too. I think they could have been way more subtle with it, because the Void himself is a representation of that whole thing, the whole like isolation feel, and don't bury things down, let them out around people that you enjoy being around. But I feel like it wasn't subtle at all with it, and that kind of messes with it. They keep saying it over and over, like, you're not alone. They could have just had the Void. I mean, it's a widely appealing movie, so there's not much you can say about that, but still, I feel like there's missed opportunity for like an actual like good thematic Marvel movie for once. But there's not much to complain about it, but still, I think it was missed opportunity. I think they could have done a little better with it. Overall, though, the casting was very good, and the acting was pretty great for a Marvel movie. I liked pretty much everyone. I didn't think there was much wrong with the movie overall. Is just there's not many flaws with it, which is another reason why it's so good. Many other Marvel movies, you can pick things apart, be like, oh, this was bad, this acting was bad, this character was stupid, I didn't like this, but this film really didn't have any of that. It wasn't flawless, but it definitely was like very clean. It was very polished. I felt like there was a lot of thought put into it and a lot of actual passion that people actually wanted to make this movie. That's a big thing about it. People, it seems like they actually wanted to make this. Most of the other Marvel movies, it's like, oh, we just made this to make a quick buck, or we made this because we had to continue the phase or whatever. This felt like this was kind of a spinball Marvel movie that someone just really wanted to make, and they sat down and they just make a good film. And the Marvel execs or whatever, all of the freaking big CEOs were like, oh, we like this, we like this, we like this. And now they're trying to turn it into this whole like corporate thing in this whole Marvel movie extension, the whole Thunderbolts asterisk, and then the new Avengers thing. Like, they're definitely trying, it's representative of the film itself, but they're trying to make this the new Avengers thing, because this is a successful film. This is a very good film. And I think they're trying to pivot into this, and I'll get to that, but that's a huge aspect of this film that I thought was very interesting. Another thing you have to talk about with the characters is a lot of them are in other Marvel movies, but I didn't even know that. Like, Hannah John Kamen, who plays Ghost, apparently she was in Ant-Man. I have very vivid memories of remembering her. I haven't seen Ant-Man in like 5 years, so I don't know. Like, I didn't recognize her that much. I kind of wish I watched it before, because like I had no idea who this character was, and that I think that kind of messed with it. I think going forward, I would probably rewatch it before I saw this, because some of these, they're clearly supposed to be characters that were in other films that you're supposed to recognize and be like, oh, this is a bad person, or oh, this guy is flawed because this and that. This movie, it's able to show them, but I feel like going into it with this this knowledge previously would make it way better. That's kind of something I missed out on that I think would have elevated a little more, but that's not really a flaw. That's just something that I noticed. All right, I kept saying over and over again that I'll get back to this about the whole, it's reflective of the MCU's current status, and I'm finally going to talk about that. That's kind of the whole point of this, is because it really is. When you watch it, you'll kind of notice that this feels like this is kind of how the MCU is right now. They keep failing with all these new projects. They keep failing with all of the things that have come out since Infinity War. Since the Avengers stopped, the actual Avengers like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, blah, 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 the entire MCU has kind of almost taken a nosedive, and MCU, I think, is self-aware about that. They know that things have kind of fallen apart since they got rid of the original cast of Avengers, and every new experiment, everything that they've done afterwards has been almost a complete and utter flop, except for a select few. Don't get me wrong, I liked like a lot of the new shows that came out after. A lot of the new stuff hasn't been bad, but you know that Marvel has had a fall off. If you disagree with that, I don't know what to tell you. That's pretty much what I feel is the case and what many people agree with. So coming in with the Thunderbolts, it's they almost, this is their last chance. Like, they have completely run out of ideas. Fantastic Four is the only thing people have been actually looking forward to, and the only thing that they really have left. And they just don't know what to do, I think. After King Dynasty fell apart because the actor, whatever his scandal was, they almost ran out of ideas. Like, they don't know what to do. So they're kind of pivoting now to the Thunderbolts with the hopes that this will be a good film and people will come back because they like these characters. And you feel that pivotness the entire time. It's a good movie, but the entire time it just reeked of, this is a pivot movie. They are pivoting towards this cast of characters. They're setting up a new band of Avengers, and they're going to use these as the new cast from here on out. And this is going to be kind of what the rest of like the MCU is focused on, is this group of people. This is going to be genuinely the new Avengers. It's almost like they're completely pivoting to this new cast of people, and it just reeks of that. And it's really almost sad to watch it. Like, there's so much to be said about what has happened to the MCU recently, why it's this bad, like what's happened completely. But it does not matter, because this film is kind of rejuvenizing it, because this is just a solid movie overall with a likable cast of characters and something to build off of. At the end of it, the post-credit scene, this is a minor spoiler, you see the Fantastic Four ship coming in. If you didn't know that yet, I'm sorry, but you know that the Fantastic Four is coming, and the new Avengers, the Thunderbolts, are going to meet them, and that's going to be the big thing when they come back, and that's how the rest of the phase is going to go on with. Operation Doomsday, or whatever it's called, has already set up that the new Avengers, the Thunderbolts, are going to be in it. So you know that they are genuinely going to be the focal point of the rest of the MCU moving forward. And this movie just reeks of that. This just feels like a setup film. Like, because there's actually no antagonist to it. Victoria Hoffman, whatever, she's kind of a minor antagonist, but the main threat to the entire thing is the Void. It is Bob and his whole, like, craziness going on in his mind. And I love his character. I think he's a really fun one. He's basically Superman, but, like, extremely quirky. Not quirky as, like, haha, but, like, he's genuinely going to have a really interesting system to him, and he has a lot of flaws. I'll talk about that a little later. There's even a line in the movie, and sorry, I can't get the verbatims. I only saw it once, and it's not on any streaming, I don't think, yet, so I can't really watch it again. But one of the characters is literally like, we're losers, we can't do anything, we're like weak, we can't do it, we just have guns, how are we gonna stop this guy? And that gave me a good chuckle, because these guys are all just different people who use guns differently. And I find that really funny. All, like, was it 5 of them? They just use different variants of guns and have abilities that help them use their guns better. And I think there's a line about it in it. And that gave me a good chuckle, because the Thunderbolts are, like, such a weak cast of characters. I mean, like, weak physically, like, not, like, weak, like, character-wise, but weak, like, actual, like, superhero weak. And it's just so funny to me that they're centering a ton of stuff around these guys when they're, like, completely useless in 90% of the situations that they're in. Against Sentry, they lose to him instantly. Like, it is not even a fight. They just lose to him. And that's just such a fun, like, dynamic that they have. That these are a bunch of, like, losers who barely can do anything against their threats. But then Sentry's the superhuman that's, like, the strongest character ever. I'm pretty sure in the comics Thor is still stronger, but still Sentry is just one of the strongest characters in the MCU. And he's a part of the Thunderbolts, who are all losers who barely can do anything, and then he's just the super. And I find that very funny. I think that's a really good thing going forward. But, like, this group of people should not have the entirety of the MCU centered around them, but yet I think they're still trying to go for that. And honestly, that's a really cool concept. I think it's very refreshing to see a group of people like this, and I think it's going to be really fun moving forward. They're not trying to be the strongest, they're trying to be very interesting. They keep trying to set up all these characters like, oh, this guy's really strong, this guy's got super this, and this guy's really powerful with that, and he's going to do crazy stuff here, there, why? But here, you just have a fun group of people who all have heavy flaws, but really interesting character moments that really build them up to be such a cool cast. And people like that. Who cares how strong the superhero is? What people care about are how interesting they are and what they do with what they have. That's what really makes an interesting character, especially in the MCU. Spider-Man's the most popular superhero of all time, probably, and he's not even that strong. He never really does anything like crazy. He has no crazy feats of strength, but people still love him because he's such a fun, flawed character. And that's what they're doing with the Thunderbolts, and I think it's going to be really good moving forward. What makes Sentry so interesting is he's got like 3 personalities, which is like the Moon Knight thing. And he's got Bob, who's like useless, who's just like a guy, and he doesn't really do anything. Then Sentry, who's literally just Superman, like as strong as him. And then you got the Void, who doesn't even fight. He just like puts his hand out and turns people into shadow, and then they go and they see their worst moments in their life. And all 3 of them are like really interesting. They all have their own unique character stuff. But Bob himself does not remember the other 2 after he goes through the cycle. So he has to go through the cycle. He has to be saved in the Void. And then he goes back to Bob, and he doesn't remember any of it. He goes black out. So they can only use him in moments of like dire need. And basically he's just useless unless they absolutely need him. And they have to save him after, basically. Which makes it such an interesting thing. This whole movie is about that 3-stage thing, and then they're trying to stop him at the end. So if he ever has to use the Sentry again, they're going to have to save him in the Void, which I think is really cool. I hope that they keep that. I really hope that they keep that, because that's such an interesting thought. Because the Thunderbolts themselves aren't incompetent. They can still get things done. It's just, when it comes to straight up fighting someone, they're useless. And that's what I think is really cool. But they have the Sentry, who's their big, tough guy who can beat anyone. But he has to go through those 3 stages, and it's just impossible. It's almost impossible to stop him. So yeah, I don't want this review to be like 30 minutes long. I don't want anything crazy. I just really wanted to sit down and talk about how interesting I thought this was. And I thought this was just such a fun film overall. To get to my favorite scene has to be when the Void is first introduced. I mean, that's just the coolest scene. He starts floating up. You see he's all like shadowed. However they did that is really cool. It's not crazy VFX, but just really creative VFX. I think it's the design of the Void himself. I'll put it up here now. It's just really good. I just really think it's fun. The glowing eyes, and then the whole shadowness, and then he puts his hand, like the way he like erases people is super rad. And that first introductory scene where he's like, why do you keep fighting? And he erases the guy in the helicopter. I thought that was so cool. That really sets it up. And you get that sense of stake, because it's not like, he doesn't kill the guy. He just turns him into a shadow instantly without any hesitation. And that's just, that's such a good, like, menacing power that you had never seen before. So yeah, that's my favorite scene overall. I tried to stick to some sort of, like, setup for this whole thing, but overall, it just kind of fell apart. I just kind of went on a rant like I usually do. But yeah, that's the Thunderbolts. I really hope you see it. I really hope, like, overall you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if this review was a little weird, because I'm now using this, and you can see me now. I keep messing with the thing, so if it keeps jittering back and forth, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to keep it to this. I'm trying to keep the blank wall for all the images, but let me know if you like this better. So yeah, That's Thunderbolts. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. That might be kind of shocking. People will usually give it 7s because this isn't okay. I've been going on about it. This isn't an incredible film by all means. This is honestly just like a kind of solid film, but what it represents and how it's going to move the MCU forth and kind of how it's a departure from like what's been happening, I think that's warranting enough to be a higher rating because this is going to be influential. I think it was a solid superhero film. I thought it was pretty funny. I liked a lot of it. I mean, if you disagree, I'm sorry, but I really liked this one. I'm a sucker for MCU movies. I grew up on them, so when I see this, there's already that bias there, but I tried to watch it from like an external point of view, and I do think this is overall a great film. If this was released in like 2002, it wouldn't be successful at all, but I think people would say that it was an underrated classic. So yeah, that's the Thunderbolts. Yeah, I'm gonna end the review here. Hope you enjoyed it. Fade to feed the idiot box. Goodbye.